All right, let's give the guitar some rounded edges. If I go online and look here, you'll see that it's the guitar body is pretty smooth, right? There's sort of a radius there to the corner, and I think one in the back too. This little panel doesn't seem to have much like that, but definitely we need one on the body. So with this guy here, I'm going to hide, right click and hide unselected so I can see the whole thing. Now, you definitely want to make a backup copy of the guitar body before you do this, because you can 100% screw it up by doing this. All right. So let me back up 1 second. This doesn't look very good to me. The line, this green thing looks kind of sloppy, but I think the guitar is okay. I just have to fix this. So, you know, but you would want to make sure your guitar the outline is as perfect and smooth as it can be, right? And definitely, you know, not with a, let me show end result here, not with definitely not that many, but definitely not with a small number of steps in your interpolation. Let's see how 20 looks. About 30. Why not? It's a large, you know, it's the main thing. So, okay. So right click, hide unselected, and I'm going to make a copy. So I just put my cursor on there, push down Shift, and drag that back. Okay, and copy, not instance, right? Okay, so I have this guy. I'm going to hide selection. All right, so we have to, again, we're going to go into editable poly. And we've been kind of using editable poly kind of as needed. One of these days I got to, you know, slow down and make you guys a kind of a separate class just on editable poly. But let's just go with it here. I'll try to be very clear on the instructions. So it can't be a line with an extrusion anymore. It has to be converted to an editable poly. So I right click on it, convert to editable poly, right? And I think I mentioned before, editable mesh is almost the same thing. It's just an older tool set that's kind of grandfathered in there. Editable poly has more options, and the patch is something else altogether. Okay. All right, so now it's an editable poly. And what I want to do is bevel, or I guess fillet is the tool we're going to use, this edge. So I have to select this whole edge all the way around the front of the guitar. So I'm going to go into edge mode, right? And I'm going to select one of those guys. Now, this is probably not going to work for some, because of, I guess, well, let's see, first of all. So in the top of editable poly, I went down into line mode. I'm in the sub-object mode. If I open editable poly, there I see edge also. Sorry, I said line, edge, whatever. And if this whole area here just all relates to selection, okay? And if I hit ring, it's going to select all the edges that are parallel to this edge. Like it'll select this one here and the other two around the backside, okay? If I do loop, make sure I only have one selected, it's going to select all of them end to end, all the way around the whole guitar, which is exactly what we want. However, I don't think it's going to work. Yeah. I guess it's because I'm actually not sure exactly why. It's just an extrude. It doesn't know which way to go. It sees this as an even fork, and if it's not a clear loop in the mind of 3ds Max, it won't do it. All right, so we have to just find another way to select that. All right, just as another example of how the ring should work, this should work, however. So if I select this one and hit ring, it selects all the parallel lines, right? But that's not what we want. We want these guys. All right, so what I'm going to do is just marquee around those. How can I do that? In another window, right? So I can tell that this is the front, right? Now, you guys, this is one place where you use the crazy window crossing toggle switch. Okay, that's this, right? The default way is crossing, right? Meaning when you make your marquee, every edge that's inside or touched by the marquee is going to be selected. See, so it'll get all these guys also. And it's basically selected everything except the back edge, okay? I could go then, invert the selection somewhere and that would work, but that's goofy. So here's what we do. Just change this to window so it only selects the things that are fully inside of the marquee, right? And then I just go around my front, all right? And there it is. I selected everything I want. And let's do the back also at the same time, right? So I'm holding Control to select that, right? Or if you didn't have the window crossing toggle, okay, just showing you different ways to select things. I could select everything, hold down Alt, which is deselect, and deselect the middle, and that gives me the same result, right? So there's different ways to skin a cat. All right, fillet, right? Sorry, chamfer. That's what we're doing. Okay. So I go down here. We're in edge mode, so you'll see edit edges, and you go down to chamfer. Don't just there's two things. You can click on the button chamfer and just drag on top of it, and it will work interactively. Or you can open the settings window, and that gives you more time to decide what you're doing before you commit. So click on that little thing, and just move this off here. And wow, that doesn't look very good. Whew, ah. All right, so there's a lot of controls here, right? The ones of interest are edge amount and the number of segments, okay? And as you roll over an option, all right, the name of the option you're in changes to the top. So this is edge depth, this is edge bias, okay? So this looks bad where it's closing across here, but it might be just because it's too much. So first of all, let's change our number of segments to more, okay? Like maybe 3. And then let's decrease the amount. This is too blobby anyway. Well, it's probably okay, but we can't do it that much with this technique. So I'm going to drag down this a little bit. All right, so the problem here is this is self-intersecting. This is a fatal error. Can't have that happen. The rest of it looks good, okay? If I try to go more, okay, now this is self-intersecting here. Let me go back to 1 and see what I get. Okay, it's even self-intersecting a little bit there. It's causing a loop, and it's causing a mess there. But if I go down to point, and how blobby is the Kadar? I don't know. This would be fine, but if I go down to 0.5, as long as it looks somewhat rounded, it's going to be all right. But I can see here that this isn't going to work. I have to fix this spot, all right? And I don't think this is a real point on here anyway. I was just drawing the thing kind of sloppy. So I'm going to say X to don't do it. If you have some kind of issue like that, we are on a second copy, right, of this thing. It's not your only copy of the guitar. So if you get stuck on this, hand it in, and we'll see if in our next live session we'll see if we can sort it out. But I'm going to hit X, and let's see. Actually, I have to go back to. Let's see if I can go back to before I created an editable poly. I was doing so much fooling around with selecting. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Probably not. So unhide all. Delete this guy. Move this one back into position. All right, let's make another copy. item selected. I did not foresee this particular thing happening to me. So what am I going to do with this point here? Maybe because it's so tight, maybe if I just go to, and make sure you're in the window you drew this in, right? And I go, you don't want to be editing this in perspective or anything like that. So I go to vertex mode and I'm going to go to refine, all right? And I'm going to click there and put another point down. And I'm just going to move it like that. And this one I'm going to change to Bezier and move them over here. I think this is still going to look fine. All right, I just made it so there's no sharp corners. Let's go to unhide all and just make sure. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I'll delete this one. I'm going to make another copy of this guitar. Okay, phew. All right, right click, hide unselected. And I'm going to right click, convert to editable poly, go into my edge mode. And in this case, I'm turning on, I'm going to do it with window instead of crossing. Select all the edges here and then control, select all the edges there. And now let's try it again. Fingers crossed. Click on the chamfer thing. All right, that looks crazy, but I think it's just because it's too much. So instead of one, there's other ways to do this, right? The great thing about 3ds Max is there's a million ways to do anything. So if we can't get this to work, we can find another way to do it, all right, in a separate video, because then I'll just like jump out the window. But all right, let's say 0.5. Yes. All right, that looks good. Let's do more segments. So how about 3? Whoops, what? It closed. Usually when you hit enter, it doesn't close. Okay, so that was curious. Back to chamfer. I undid it, went back to chamfer. So 2, that's going to be enough. All right, let's see if with more segments I can go a little higher on this. What happens with 1? Still bad. What happens with 0.9? It's got a little problem. How about, I want it to be as big as I can make it. 0.8, 0.7, 0.6. I guess I'll just go back to 0.5 for safety. Yeah, it's going to look nice. All right, and then you hit the check. And then click on, now you're still in the sub-object mode, or I was, right? I was still in edge mode. Make sure you exit the sub-object mode. A lot of times 3ds Max won't let you do anything while you're still stuck in the sub-object mode. So to do that, just click on the word editable poly, okay? Or if you're a keyboard shortcut type person, 2 is edge mode, and then just 2 again gets you out of it, all right? Unhide all. Yeah, so this definitely F4 to turn off edges. See, now we have a nice soft edge on it. Oh, it's so sweet looking. This guy definitely needs to be fixed, but I'm going to get back to that when I have the time. All right, let's go on and do these doohickeys up here, the tuning pegs and the tuning whatever things. So they look like, here they are from the back, right? And these are like kind of half round in one dimension, half round in the other dimension. A lot of them, Stratocasters are made over decades, and there's all kinds of variation to the designs. And people, build them at home, and they make it differently too. So, a lot of them are just like a box back here. It's unlikely in your rendering, you're gonna be showing the back of the guitar. I mean, you could, but most likely it's gonna be the front. So we could just put a box back here for this thing. However, we gotta draw this shape here, right? And put it on a cylinder or whatever. And now this looks kind of like an odd shape. And then, oops, where is it? thought I had another one. Well, on the here it is here. These things here are little pegs, right? I somehow accidentally closed the image I had of it, but it's like a little peg, right? So that's just going to be a lathed object, and they're connected, right? They're they're one machine piece that penetrates through a hole in the guitar, but we don't need to show that they're all one piece because, you know, we're not building an actual guitar here. We're just, you know, making something that looks like a guitar. So let's build them. So I'm going to go here and let's see. And I guess they're kind of rotated too. So that's another thing. Remember, when you build stuff, build it unrotated, right? Like this is at a kind of a weird angle, whatever that angle is. So you want to build one entire assembly. Well, actually, the front doesn't matter because it's lathed, but the back part, you want to build the whole thing sideways and then rotate it into position. So we're just going to really use this drawing for kind of like rough scale, more or less. All right. So let's make the lathed object on top first. Well, look at this. It actually shows it here. All right. So, and I'm in the highest quality. So that's, you know, it's not such a high resolution image, but it's going to be okay. All right. So I'm going to go to my line, right? And I'm going to put on some reading glasses so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to draw down the middle first, like that. And then go over, I think it's big, maybe out here. And a lot of these things I can just make hard corners and just, you know, put a little chamfer on them afterwards. It looks like it's going to be a little fat, but let's see how it looks. So this is going to be lathe, right? And you know, we're doing it around the y axis, right? As opposed, we're normally doing it around the x axis that goes up and down. But if I say y, you know, it's not the axis, it's the direction. So let's see, it's probably x. Yes. All right. And so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go exit the default shading and go to wireframe override. And here I can see, you know, whoops, sorry. I have to be open lathe and get on axis. And then when I move this up and down, okay, we want it like that. So the number of segments, even for a tiny thing like this, 16 is too little. Let's make it like 40. Right. It's not such a complicated scene that we have to worry about this stuff. Let me try min to make sure. Yeah, that definitely does not work. Or max, no. These are tools, like I said, are unreliable. Okay. If I went this way, it's inside out, so it's got to be this way. And I'm just looking at that to make sure it's not self-intersecting and not a hole, right? That's a hole because it's too big. That's self-intersecting. So right on the money. There we go. Okay. You can't see anything no matter how far I zoom in except a line. Okay. What if I made this 41? Would it not be? Yeah. So I guess it's helpful to make it an even number, and then you're looking directly through at the line behind it. All right. Let's look at this in the. It looks a little fat to me. I'm going to drop down to the line mode, but keep show end result on. And go into vertex. I'm going to make this bottom smaller somewhat. I think that's just too fat. Maybe this a little bit smaller. It's a pretty small part, so, you know. All right, where the heck is it? Oh, it's right on the, it's right where it's supposed to be. Turn on weld core. Not sure if that's a real thing or not. And I'm going to do a little fritzing around here with this. Going to drop down to vertex. And let's see, how about fillet? So I go here, turn on fillet, and I'm going to do this here. Same thing here. And maybe here. Okay, every place we can get our machinery to show up reflections, the more realistic and nice it's going to look. What about here? Maybe I made this, you know, I drew this by hand when I was doing it, but I should have probably waited. Let me turn off fillet for a second. What if I just delete one of them? I'm just going to fillet this instead. All right, let's see if that looks better. All right, subtle but a nice difference. Let's hit F4 to look at our edges. Oh, it looks like I think we need more. I said 40, let's go 50. It's going to be like that big. I think my base part's a little bit too big. You want to, I'm kind of like just winging this here, but you want to try to get good references here. Let's see. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of tweaking here. Make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to make this a little bit fatter too. Yeah. All right. Now we got to do one more thing. There's most of these, I think I've seen guitars with holes on them, but most of these have a cut through the middle, and maybe there's a hole also, but the hole's small enough to not show it. I think the string, I don't know, how it wraps around this thing. The string wraps around the skinny part, right? The you know, guitar strings, but then it goes through a hole here or something, I don't know. But at any rate, they mostly seem to have a cut in it. So let's just throw a box on there. Actually, I'm going to use a go to extended primitives and chamfer box, so I get a little bit of inside rounded edges. And I'm just going to draw it right on top here. Drag once, again, and let it have a little bit of roundedness to it. All right, and now I got to just find it. Here it is. Okay, so it has to be intersecting, right? And again, look for photos of these things, but I'm pretty sure I'm doing it more or less right. All right. Create panel, compound objects, pro Boolean, start picking, and turn off start picking. All right, that's this piece. All right, that's going to work. Let's do the back then. Looks like that. So I'm trying to think what's the best way to do it. Okay, let's mess around. I'm going to draw a box back there, I'm going to rough it out first with just a standard primitive box, right? And again, I'm going to draw it like next to it, about the right size. And let's get it kind of into position. So let's see, it's going to be, it is more or less in position. It's behind it a little bit, right? This thing's not in the right place, really. Okay, so let's take this guy and put it, let it be the top one, I guess. Unhide all. All right, so let's let this box have another division across the middle, right? So that looks like it was the wrong direction. Oh, that was the one I wanted. Yeah, because see, it's kind of rounded on the top, and it also squishes in a little bit on either side. I'm going to make it a little bit fatter than that for starters, because it's going to get skinnier. All right, so I got that set up. I'm going to right-click, convert to editable poly. All right, so I'm going to go into my polygon sub-object mode. I'm going to click on one end and then the other end, control-click, so I have those two. And I'm going to go into scale, and I'm going to get on this red arrowhead. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Not too much. And this is an experiment, but let's see if I can round the top of this by doing chamfer. That doesn't look good. That didn't work. So all right, I have some other ideas. Let's rough it out. We'll use a modifier on it. I'm just trying to do, like I said, there's ways to do everything, but I'm just trying to like figure out what's the easiest way to do this particular thing. What if we select all the edges and we chamfer them? Okay. Yeah. So, hey, that's going to be fine. And again, it's just a little part. As long as it doesn't look screwed up, you know, nobody knows unless you're faced with a guitar expert or something. As long as it looks like doesn't look wrong or wacky, if it's not exactly like this. And if you just Google Stratocaster tuning, or I think that's the term will show you these. They come in a wide variety of shapes. Some of them are really like rounded, almost oval. Most of them look like the picture we were just looking at, kind of like this. But this is going to be fine. All right. So I got that. Yours, depending on the size and everything else, yours might be a little different. But it looks like where am I there? I'm around 0.1. Let's look at 0.1. And my number of fillet segments are 2. Let's see if I can go up to 3. Yeah. Maybe just leave it on 2. I don't think I really need 3 there. It's a little thing, right? I'm going with that, check. All right, and then exit the sub-object mode. All right, so all I got to do is stick a cylinder on the end of this thing and then a box to be hidden back there just so it's there, I mean, in case it shows up in a reflection or something like that. All right, so this guy here, I guess it's here. I'm going to draw the cylinder in this window. Cylinder or something like that. All right, where is it? There it is. I think it needs to be a little bit longer than that. All right, and I'm just going to put a box on the end of it. And I think it's generally below, kind of like that. All right, so just like, kind of like this thing here. All right, I'm really not too concerned about this box. I just want something to be there. This looks maybe a little skinny. I don't know. Okay, so let's group these, right? So select one, control click on the next one, control click on the next one, right? And again, if you find you can't control click or do anything or go forward in any way, you're probably still in the sub object mode of whatever the last object you were selected. All right, so group, and you can name it, you know, doohickey or whatever you want. And now I'm going to just rotate this. And again, angle snap on as always. Okay, make sure you're rotating on an axis, right? And don't, I don't know why people do this, but I always see people starting to rotate here, okay? That's the one place to not start it because you're on top of one axis here and one axis there. Which one are you going to choose, okay? So you want to either be here or here, okay? It's like a steering wheel. You don't want to be where there are two axes, okay? So I'm going to go, what's that, 20%? Actually, let me zoom out a little bit to get a better feel for it. 20% seems fine, something like that, whatever looks good to you. Put that down there, okay? And then I can select this guy, and you could make an array, but I'm not going to do that. Actually, so I'm going to group all these. So I'm going to go group again, tuning or something. All right. So you can just hold down Shift and make your copies. Okay, and do that. Probably fine. I'll show you a cool other trick though. I'm going to go to Tools, Array, and let's see. I'm going to use Move and hit Preview. Okay, so we don't want to go in that direction. We want to go this way. And then, not Z, but, okay. Honestly, you can just do this by hand. I was just showing you, arrays are kind of fun to play with. Okay, again, you do this after you think they're all perfect. This can be instance because they're all going to be the same and you probably won't change one. So, okay. All right. And I'm actually going to select all these guys using Control and rotate them with angle snap turned off a tiny bit because I want to make them just right. And it doesn't seem to be conforming to any particular angle. All right, so the guitar should be looking pretty good at this point. Make sure you have multiple copies of it back. Oops, I just didn't want to do that. This is F for front. I just rotated on my orthographic view. So, you know, you got to put the strings on. Those can be just lines with renderable turned on, and the frets have to be put on. Let's see if I have a picture open. So these things, right? You know, the surface of this is maybe a little bit curved. I think we can just ignore that. Maybe we should round this here a little bit like we did. These frets can be just, I don't think my picture that I use, oh, it does use them. So you can place them on there individually. What would be a good kind of shape to use for those? Maybe if I look in extended chamfer cylinder capsule, what does a capsule look like? Because if I go here, see they're just like almost like a box or something, but they look a little bit, they're picking up highlights on the edge. There must be something rounded there. So my mouse is freaking out. So I'm just going to go make one and see what it looks like. So let's see, where do I want to be in this viewport, right? So let's see what a capsule looks like. I'm not sure how long or even what I'm doing when I'm drawing it. Ooh, that might work, right? So let's see, we have the radius, somehow I have it set to 0. Height, wait, I gotta go to modify perhaps. Radius, right? There's the height and the number of sides, that's plenty. It's probably like 0.03 or something. It's probably pretty skinny. Let's see, do they change? They look like they're all about the same thickness, but the spacing definitely changes. So let's try to put one into position. So I'm going to move it over here, right? Decrease the height a little. So, you know, is it longer than the, it looks like about exactly the same, I guess. So, and it's kind of like half embedded in the front of the neck of the guitar. So something like that. Oh, one other thing. Well, this one doesn't have it, so I guess we don't have to worry about it. I noticed some have like a plate of different color attached to the front here. But yeah, get the strings on there, and they're different thicknesses. They go from thicker to thinner, left to right. This thing here is a little different. So yeah, looking good.